Good morning. God bless. What is great, good, and real? We're going to get busy. I got a question for you. You think you're tired of your life? Do you think you are tired of your life? Because I believe you're just refusing to die in the parts of you that need to. There's something that hit me over the course of the last week during my studying, during my practicing, during my living of my life, my very standard human life, just like you, going through the trials and the tribulations, the up, the downs, the left, the right, the north, the south, the east, the west, life. And my ability to, I guess the language would be rationalize this thing or make an attempt to elevate myself towards conscious light, towards self-acceptance. And I got struck with this reality that everything in me must die. And it can't just die once. It has to die over and over and over in order for me to bring death to whatever might restrict me in my life. And I think this is less about being limited to the standard conscious experience of life and more just to literally to the literal ascension of what you could possibly be. So if I want to bring death to anything, death to possible ego, envy, jealousy, my current job, my worry, my stress, even love, that's what hit me. But if I want to bring death to anything, I have to first die in it. Quite naturally, when you're trying to elevate your life and alter the experience, we talked about pendulums, and you're trying to move the pendulums, we are so caught on everything we have to bring death to and let die that might conflict with what we're trying to do. It's popular in this space. Cut off the circle, cut off the lifelines that are providing you dopamine drips, cut off the scrolling, cut off the social media. That is prevalent. And I think we'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. But then also, you can't just accept that you're ascending and somehow you're the only one ascending, and that because you're ascending and you're loving yourself more, that you can't let the love of you also die because you are not perfect. And life's going to just rock you in your jaw, likely at the time you least expect it. And a lot of times in the most micro of ways. And that, I think, is the compounding effect of consciousness. The micro losses, the days that don't feel like it's moving in your direction. And if you have multiple days of not moving in the direction you want to go, that has a conscious compound effect. One you likely don't realize that causes you a lot of frustration, right? So let me be clear about what this is and what this isn't. This isn't and this ain't about pain. It ain't about grief. We're going to talk about death as requirement, the death protocol. I'm getting into a concept. We're going to unleash it soon, probably over the course of the next month. Sort of return to black. It's Project Zero, the remembrance of your soul, and how, you know, the connection that we need to elevate our soul really starts at the heart level, not at the mind level, at the heart level. Our minds are probably, and most assuredly, especially if you're like me, playing massive tricks on you. In order to stop the trickery, I read something today, the fool acting, I forget what the term was, but essentially we're acting out our lives, right? We talked about capturing the pen and sort of scripting your own chapter and verse, but the thoughts permeate. And those thoughts, when left to not return back to black, which is just the pure emotion of life, self-love, which we know hate is the protector of love, you get this pendulum burst. But those thoughts are only as valid as you make them. So death is requirement. Death is requirement fundamentally in the entire experience of life. And we experience it in our inner worlds and, of course, in our outer worlds. And a lot of times the outer is recreating the inner. And that can create some frustration. So if you're looking for any sort of rebirth, if you want peace, contentment, you want to walk in light, you got to die for it. You got to die for it. And then you got to die, and then die, and then die, and then die. It's constant death in order for constant resurrection. Not physically, God forbid, but consciously, which is as painful. Conscious death is painful. Making moves and realizing you're loving yourself deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you start to get the realization that in my pursuit of self-love, I, of course, am neglecting a lot of things in my life. A lot of relationships, a lot of family, a lot of people who could probably use me, but I'm still learning how to use myself. You want to talk about an emotional experience? That somehow you're gaining, you're elevating, and then you look back and you're like, man, I left a lot behind. So we're not talking physically, we're talking consciously, emotionally, spiritually. A lot of what this, I don't want to say a lot of, but I'm reminded, and I was reminded when I was journaling of the book. And conceptually, God said, let there be light. Why? What did light emanate from? Pitch black darkness. What is perceptual death? Pitch black darkness. How do you elevate yourself consciously? How do you raise your spirit level? How do you change anything that you see about your life? You go into pitch black darkness. Consciously, emotionally, spiritually, and you return there as often as possible or as often as required. It's almost sort of like a repentance. I almost also think of it in the way that if I'm elevating physically through my workouts or whatever it is, if I'm elevating in my career, on the channel, with my family, and I see that I've maximized this current version of love that I have in each of the spaces, that gotta die. I gotta build, I gotta level up. Now, the beauty of returning to black, of course, is that you broaden your blackness, you broaden your darkness, you broaden your level zero. And every time you feel like, yo, I've gotten everything I could get out of this, all right, how do I ascend? Or you can just be quiet and peace and contentment, and you can just elevate and radiate that version of you to the entire existence of your life. And then in that way, you're helping God, of course. But when we talk about returning to black, when we talk about the death of where we're at and the unharmonious and unsynchronous and the non-unified version of us, the one that is in love with doubt, anxiety, stress, depleted, fear-derived conscious levels of ourselves. Essentially, you're surviving the version of you that God is trying to bury. You're surviving the version of you that God was trying to, has been trying to, and is trying to bury. And then you wonder why every new chapter feels like a remix of your trauma. It's not coincidental. It's not coincidental. You remix the same thoughts, you remix the same patterns, you remix the same habits, you remix the same conscious level of existence. You don't bring death to any of your trauma. You wonder why it keeps representing itself to you. Represent, represent. What you represent is represented to you over and over and over. And this is why it's exhausting. The pursuit of self-elevation, you should be looking for self-love. You should be looking for self-help. Otherwise, you're just recreating that pendulum swing, or you're pushing it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into darkness anyway. When you lose sight of elevation for yourself, the pursuit of higher versions, you're just burying yourself deeper and deeper into darkness. You can't even see anymore. In the same way, you shine your light too bright. The light has a beginning and an end too. And the light also, of course, doesn't reflect what isn't in its direction. In that way, you can think you are very wise, but you forget that you haven't humbled yourself in a little while. That's why every time I reach a new version of love, where I reach a version of self-domination, I humble myself to remember, yo, you're not God. You're of God. You're of the image. Chill. You still have, I'm going to die trying to reach the level I'm trying to reach. I'll never get there. I believe the level that I'm trying to reach is so that hopefully when I tap out and I clock out and what I believe is the light that waits for me, the conscious light, I don't have to come back down here and recreate in an attempt to find my soul version that God needs me to find. That's what it's all about for me. The conscious creation of this reality that releases me of the trauma of this reality and places me in nothing but pure light and love. We can achieve it here, but we just have to go through the difficulties that consciousness brings. I was reminded also, man, I was taking a walk and this we were getting by the track, my wife and I, and it was like a National Geographic, I guess, kind of moment. This bird flew, it was only like 20 feet above us and it was starting to elevate. And it had its prey, it had a little mouse. I felt so bad. And the bird, the wings were massively big. And you could see the mouse was just like, it was lifeless. It was alive. It knew it had been caught. But the power of that was multifaceted. One was this. I was reading how the conscious level of animals, they don't hate. The predator doesn't see his prey and is angry and envious and jealous and coveting. Nope. It's like, I just gotta eat. It's nothing against you. I have no ill will towards you. We of course are naturally emotional, and emotion brings trauma. And emotion is very hard to get over. That's why you got to let it die. That's why you got to come back to black. Also, I felt massive. I prayed for the prey because it has to be knowing at that time it's over. And some of us right now reach an age and an inflection point that we overlook, and we're kind of just living lifeless and limp. Inertia, stagnation, stasis is massively real at the conscious level that we emanate today. That's my personal fear once I learned. That's what I try to speak out loud in hopes of, if somebody sees it and feels it the same way, you cannot live like that. But also, of course, the elevation towards love is massively traumatic as well. Why? You got to go through all your old trauma. Then you got to relive that trauma. And then you got to let it die. And then you create new trauma. If for nothing else, then you realize you are so flawed, you got to keep working. And there are some things inherently that just aren't great in you because that's just the way we're built. But let's go into this a little bit deeper, right? Like a lot of us, I used to chase change, especially younger, like it was a reward. And I think we get into habits like that, right? New means better. And sometimes I was repeating certain new behaviors that gave me a reward. Certain stimulants that somehow changed the vibe. And I thought transformation was a vibe, like a moment or a spark. But what I learned, and what I'm still learning, my God, I have so much to learn, is that every level of light requires a version of me to die. I can't express that enough. I can't overstate it or understate it. Like we think, we reach a version. There's a pinnacle. There is no pinnacle, dog. There's a pinnacle of the version you're on. And then when you reach it, you got to be able to look around the field and say, all right, at this level, I've gotten everything I can. New level, all this other stuff got to die. And there might be a level where it's all about you, and 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 it's all about you. And then God is like, look at yourself. Look how great you are. Now give it away. Oh, that's harder because you have no control outside of yourself. It's all good. It's all well and good consciously to realize, I'm gonna vibrate on a love frequency until somebody else is conflicting with your love and bringing you hate. And you're looking around like, why am I all of a sudden stuck in this rhythm of self-fractured sort of friction? Why? Because you got light, but other people are bringing you dark, and you don't know how to reflect your light off their darkness. You don't know how to be accepting of others and their centeredness. And it's not like the dude down the block or your coworker. It's the people closest to you. It's when you wake up and you die and die and die and then come alive and come alive and come alive, and you're watching somebody around you who's floating in death. And they're struggling with what they're struggling. They're struggling with their consciousness. They're struggling with God. They're struggling with their version. And some of us are around people who we love deeply that have little struggles that you can help with. Some you cannot help with. Some they have to get over themselves. Some you just got to be there for and allow their darkness to consume some of your light. Are you ready to reach a level of light that you give away your light? Do you have that in you? That's exhausting. Mostly because you got to be quiet and accept it. My opinion. What I'm learning, what I'm experiencing. Otherwise, it's just selfish behavior. Stop telling people about what you think they should do. Just listen to them. Listen as them. Appreciate what they're going through. And sometimes they just need to hear it for themselves. What you did and what you accomplished and the trophies you got are for you. Go get those. Bask in them. Enjoy them. Talk about them to yourself and God all the time. Other people don't need that all the time, man. So every level of light requires a version of me to die. This ain't metaphor either. I'm talking full deletion. Well, what do you fully delete, Jeff? Beliefs, behaviors, comfort loops, spiritual training wheels. Imagine that I get so fixated on, these are my beliefs, these are my behaviors, this is my comfort, because now I got so comfortable in discomfort. I can lift that weight. I got to go heavier. I got to now question what I believe, because why? There might be new beliefs. And those beliefs are not invalid. They just sort of have an expiration date. There's also the reality of, well, I believed it like this. What if I believe it like that? Naturally, my behavior changes with it. But it's still conceptually singular towards, I am rooted in God. Therefore, faith, honor, loyalty. I follow that virtuousness. So we talked about ask the other day, not just asking that ask, seek, knock, but ASK turns into ask, seek, knock. So I return to black. I come back to how I feel. Am I still loving everything? Am I loving everything? Am I loving everything? Can I love deeper? Oh, I can? I need to see further. I need to knock a little bit harder. I got to do a little bit more. Or sometimes I got to do a little bit less. But God already showed me, and it's in text, and it's in literature, it's in word, wherever you read it, in many different ways, not just one particular book. I can't resurrect what I refuse to crucify. I've been neglecting the chat. I've been so hyped. Where you at? I got an error. That's okay. That's all right. We're going to keep going through this. So what does this amount to in a little bit more detail as far as allowing me to clarify this? I don't become something new to stay what was new. And I don't chase new to just stay new. So what is new for me today must die. I learn to learn again, then learn again, then learn again, and again, and again, and again. And every time I learn something about myself, right? About how things work, about God, it implies the previous dies. Here's the best I can say it in a few lines, right? I started it this way. In order to give death to something, you must die in it, all the way in it. You're dealing with a little bit of self-hate, self-loathing. I must die in that hate to give death to hate. I can't just talk it away. I got to sit in it. I got to die in it myself. I got to tell nobody about it but God. What are the inconsistencies I have? What are the flaws I have? What are the self-frustrations? Do I give way to envy, to coveting, to jealousy, to hate? Of course I do. What do I do with it? I ignore it? Nope. I sit in it. Yo, what you doing? What is that frustration? What is that angst? What is that fear? What are you really scared of? We talked about this in detail. But you got to sit in it in detail. You can't just script it away, talk it away, wish it away, pray it away. You sit in it, you die in it all the way. You just keep immersing deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually what happens is you're like, yo, it's there. I can accept that. But I also I don't have to heed it. It doesn't have to lead the way. In that way, I give death to it. I see you. I know it's there. It resides in my spirit. How would I know otherwise? Death ain't punishment. It's process. It's protocol. Here's more what I'm learning. If I keep clinging to emotions God asked me to release, if I keep performing identities He been done buried, if I keep negotiating with pain just to avoid the grave, I am not evolving. I'm just resuscitating the same weak system with new affirmations. If you are negotiating with the same level of consciousness you've been negotiating with the same self-relationship, with the same external relationships, with the same situations again and again and again and again, you are not evolving. You are resuscitating the same weak system with new affirmations. And God does not work like that. Not in an evolution way. God will work for you and keep you right there. Why? You keep on giving life to it. Consciousness does not scale like that. It gets stagnant. It gets into stasis. You will consciously put yourself in a state of inertia. And in that way, you will consciously bring death to yourself anyway. You want light, you want peace, you want inheritance, then you got to build an altar and die on it. If there's anything I offer you by way of learning and teaching that I would express is a non-negotiable, an absolute non-negotiable. I don't know any other way to get there. Complete and utter silence to yourself every single day, not for the entirety of the day, 15 minutes. That's how you build an altar. Same place, same time, until it feels like same place, same time. In other words, I love to pray as soon as I wake up. But I've learned consciously that I'm always now praying. Why? My thoughts are a manifestation of my conscious spirit of God. That is my image from Creator, from God. I use it all the time to the best of my ability to keep everything aligned. I keep my prayers straight. I pray in humility. I pray in surrender. I pray in weakness. I pray myself to tears. This is real. This is life. If you don't give death to any other versions of yourself, God can't build you new. And new doesn't mean everything is stripped down and bare like a snake that sheds its skin per se. It's built on top of, you callous yourself, right? You need the pain. You need the self-doubt. Hate is the protector of love. You strip yourself bare to the nude. I'm not talking about physically. I read today, you want to ascend, you got to let go of the world entirely. The physical matter, the realm of this world, you got to let it all go. I paused there. I even had to ask God, are you sure? I got to let go of the world, but this is your creation. How do I interpret that? How do I process that? I also think I'm trying to impact the world. What does that mean? Let it go. Let it go and watch you ascend. Let go of that self-doubt. Watch you ascend. How you let it go? You sit, you immerse yourself in it. The way to explode up is to create downward pressure. You create internal emotional pressure. You keep asking yourself and figuring out what is so deep in here that I can't rise above. The answer is nothing. What do I offer to help? God. You got to drill in. You got to get past what you're thinking. Why? It's the heart that elevates the soul. You skipped over your heart. You skipped over what you really feel. You keep telling me what you think. What you think is based on how you feel. You forgot how you feel because you're so worried about what you are thinking. And most of us don't even stop and pause to reflect on what we are thinking. Because if you were stopping to think about what you were thinking about, you'd have a lot less to complain about, because you would hear yourself complaining and then figure out, yo, I got to do something about this. That's pure logic. That's unemotional. That's also fully emotional in your heart. You wouldn't do that to yourself. If you feel like you're struggling, you can't be conscious that you're struggling, because why would you consciously do that to yourself? I know it's hard. I know it's dark. God said, let there be light. So today, because all you got is today, I dare you to kill one thing you keep keeping alive. Kill one thing you keep keeping alive. Stop resuscitating your old self. Stop CPRing into your comfort. Stop dragging your dead ego into new blessings. And if you can't do it on your own, let God bury it. Let God bury it. Yo, you want to talk about, can you let you, the feeling of letting go is beyond liberating. It's uncomfortable because you're always going to know what you know. There's always going to be some skeletons that only you and God are aware of. That also offers yourself humility. I thought about my fear of re-engaging with people who I know, who I used to know. Why? Because they talk to me like the person I used to be. And I'm so afraid of the person I used to be that I don't want to be around nobody who can identify me as that previous version. I fear you speaking at me the way, as the person, as the Jeff I used to be. Even though I know God buried it, that's still something I'm working to get over. Still an insecurity. I don't believe I'll ever default back into it, but yo, you're protective. There could be a version of you that was so outrageous that you fear that you can't bury it. But you got to let your spirit eulogize it. And then you let your actions confirm you ain't going back. That's how I get over myself. Every step forward is at least not a step backward. Yes, I know he's there. Yes, I know what it's like. But I just confirm. I take a step, I take a step, I take a step. All the pressure that I build downward into my soul to allow it to elevate up. You explode into the light. Let your actions confirm you ain't going back. One death today equals one layer of light unlocked. Light is infinite. You don't need another breakthrough. You need a funeral. You own it or be owned by it. You either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.